Meanwhile, this morning, following the revelations that both President Joe Biden and former Vice President Mike Pence were storing classified documents at their homes, not to mention Donald Trump keeping documents at his beach club, there are questions about whether other former members of the executive branch may have taken sensitive material as well. According to two people familiar with the matter, speaking to the Washington Post, the National Archives is considering asking past presidents and vice presidents now to review their possessions for classified records. Under the Presidential Records Act, the archives takes and reviews millions of papers every time a president leaves office, but compliance can be an issue just because of the volume of material. Following the news about Pence's documents this week, the offices of former Presidents Clinton, George W. Bush, and Obama issued statements emphasizing their prior compliance with protocols. Joining us now, Democratic Congressman Richie Torres of New York. Congressman, good morning. You were announcing here, I understand, first on Morning Joe, new legislation that you'll be introducing about defending classified secrets. So it's already the law to hand over these documents. What does your legislation do to kind of strengthen that?
Well, it's an honor to be with you. So the problem of mishandling information is clearly more common than we think. If you're a rank and file official with security clearance, you have a powerful incentive to properly manage classified information because you could face severe consequences like the loss of your security clearance, termination, or even criminal prosecution. But if you're a senior official who's unlikely to be terminated or prosecuted, or who's unlikely to have your security clearance revoked, there's no comparable incentive to properly handle classified information. And so that's a problem that we have to address. That's a dynamic that we have to change within the federal government. And so I'm introducing what is known as the DOCS Act, the Defense of Classified Secrets Act, which would require federal officials with security clearance to certify that there are no classified documents in their possession, and to do so within 30 days of vacating their position. Creating an obligation to tell the truth under oath creates an incentive to search your property for classified documents, creating an incentive where none presently exists.
And clearly, this is a reaction to what we've seen in the last couple of weeks on a bipartisan level, including from President Biden. So I think most people say, well, of course, it's the law that a president, a vice president, anybody has to not leave and take documents home with him or her. Why did you see at this moment in time a need to just sort of formalize that and say you've got 30 days to let us know on the record under the penalty of perjury that you've given everything you need to give back?
Well, the media coverage about classification has largely been focused on individuals, but there's a real need to examine the system for classifying documents. We should examine to what extent have documents been overclassified. You know, the more documents we classify, the more challenging it becomes to handle those documents, the greater the risk of misclassification. I'm concerned that our classification system has morphed into a monstrosity that has led and will continue to lead to the mishandling of classified information.
So, Claire, this is a point you've been making now for a couple of weeks, that yes, this is all important stuff and you shouldn't take documents home to your garage and put it next to your Corvette. But the idea of classification, how much gets classified, might be a problem.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that the congressman is hitting on something that I know to be true, and that is that there's overclassification. I can't tell you how many times I had to give up my Apple Watch, my phone, everything, walk into a SCIF, which is where you look at classified information, look at a document and go, oh, I read this in the paper yesterday. There's nothing in here that America doesn't already know. So I do think he's tackling this problem in the right way, to look at the whole system. Are they overclassifying just to be, quote unquote, on the safe side? And what can you do to declassify quickly once something, for example, we were talking earlier about presidential schedules overseas. Well, of course, those are classified before the trip because you don't want everyone to know where the president is going to be for protection and safety. But after the trip is over, everybody knows where they've been. So why would that need to be remaining classified? And so I think the congressman's on the right track. I'd love to ask you a question, Congressman, about your colleague. I know I'm jumping a segment here, but I have to. George Santos. I know you've been outspoken about George Santos. And I'd like you to comment on the fact that he gets a vote as to who he's a guy, and we're talking about classified information here that he could be privy to, real classified information. He gets a vote on whether or not a member of Congress gets to sit on a committee. Could you expound on that and actually talk about what level of buffoonery is this?
I wish I could explain it to you, but it's inexplicable. It's the height of hypocrisy for Speaker McCarthy to remove Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell, two members in good standing from their committees, while appointing a complete charlatan and utter fraud like George Santos on a committee. It's a perversion of the institution. And George Santos is going to sit on the Small Business Committee, which happens to oversee the PPP program. It's one of the largest programs the federal government has ever enacted. And a fraud like George Santos cannot be trusted to root out fraud in the PPP program. He has no business being in Congress, let alone sitting in any committee.
So while we're on the topic, there are new questions this morning about financial records for Republican Congressman Santos. His campaign and several affiliated committees filed new statements yesterday, indicated that the congressman's longtime treasurer was changing. The documents now list Thomas Datweiler, a veteran campaign finance consultant, as the replacement. The problem? A lawyer for Datweiler says he had not agreed to the swap and suggested the changes were made without his authorization. Meanwhile, Congressman Santos continues to delay answering questions from reporters about the many accusations against him. A gaggle of journalists have been camped outside his office since the start of the new Congress, so much so that Santos has taken to buying food for them, like in this tweet showing a Chick-fil-A. Despite the frequent meetings with reporters, Santos has not provided any updates, including on his recent claim that he was the target of an assassination attempt.
No remarks for you guys right now, as I said earlier, but when there are remarks to be made regarding anything you guys want, we will make those remarks. I just hope you guys patiently wait, and in the interim, we will be in touch.
Regarding the assassination remarks, did you file any police report? Any details?
That's up to you guys to investigate. You guys do such a good job at investigating everything.
I mean, I don't even, Congressman, this is hard to comprehend that this guy has a vote in Congress and has a sitting seat in Congress. So is there any update on your ethics investigation, any way to, quite frankly, get him out of there?
Look, we keep discovering that the pathological lying and law-breaking of George Santos has no limit. I mean, not only did he submit falsified filings to the FEC, but then he re-falsified those filings with the fraudulent signature of a treasurer. What I find striking is that George Santos has finally admitted that the $500,000 loan to his campaign came from a third party, which is a blatant violation of campaign finance law. He's all but admitted to breaking campaign finance law. And the oversight chair here in Congress, James Comer, said that if George Santos broke campaign finance law, he should be removed. We now have enough evidence to justify his removal, yet House Republicans insist on protecting him.
Congressman Torres, good morning. Jonathan Lemire, in recent days, a number of shall we say, radical members of the Republican Party have been elevated to pretty prominent posts on committees. The Marjorie Taylor Greenes of the world have only gotten more power in this new Congress. And these are the same voices that have advocated playing politics with the debt ceiling. What is your level of concern right now? Treasury bought the Congress some time, but early June will be here before we know it. We know what the consequences will be catastrophic. What's your level of concern that your colleagues on the other side of the aisle might want to send the country over the cliff?
Look, I have real concerns that the far right of the Republican Party consists of arsons who are intent on burning down the full faith and credit of the United States. There's nothing fiscally conservative about breaching the debt limit. Fiscal conservatism means honoring your debt obligations, not defaulting on them. And as far as I'm concerned, it would be profoundly unpatriotic and un-American to do irreparable damage to the full faith and credit of the United States. Why would we want to do harm to our own country? It's inexplicable to me.
Democratic Congressman Richie Torres, thanks so much for your time, as always. We'll talk to you again soon. Thank you, sir.
you.